All right, so before fiberglassing, I decided to make a design change. The headlights, or the headlight buckets, looked really droopy. They reminded me of a dog I used to see on cartoons when I was little. I don't remember his name. I think his name might have been Droopy, actually. But either way, they looked like they were kind of like melting off the car. You could see how low the headlight bucket goes. So I raised it up over here, and I think it looks much, much better. So we're gonna take this and transfer it over there. I've already got the pieces cut. It's ready to go. If you want more information on how I'm doing this, like this method, I've got 2 videos ago. I'll post it right up here. But 2 videos ago, I made a full video breakdown of how I'd use this paper and tape method. And honestly, it works really, really well. And I'll show you because we're gonna mimic this shape over there. All right, so the headlight buckets are fixed now. Got them both covered back up with tape. And this does look much, much better. Now, there's a bunch of different shapes that I could have chosen, but I wanted it to kind of follow this line down through here and back around and up. And I think it does that pretty well. I used the clay to make sure both of them matched pretty good, so. I wasn't really planning on doing that today, so it did take a little bit of extra time. But overall, I'm happy with the result. It looks much less like droopy-eyed, which is cool. And I think it's gonna work out pretty well. I would love to do some clear kind of headlight lens covers over these. So we may go down that road, I don't know, one day. But for now, this is gonna work, and we are ready for fiberglass. Here's what I use. So this is for later. This is probably what you're used to seeing when it comes to fiberglass. It's called fiberglass matte. It's just chopped up glass strands, super strong, super thick, and that's why we'll be using it later. But for our surface glass, I use this. This is 6-ounce fiberglass cloth. So you can see it's woven together, like what you would see with like carbon fiber. And it's very strong. It doesn't flex and bend as much as the matte does because that's all just glued together. This is actually woven into a fabric. But the good thing about this is it's super smooth and even. So when you lay it out, you can lay one layer of this stuff down and it's really smooth. Lay a second one, it's still really smooth. And that's gonna give us our surface layer. So that's going on here first. And then I'll tell you guys what we do next to make sure it's actually strong enough where we can pull all of this stuff that we have on there off. All the clay and paint and tape, and we don't have paint on there. Clay and tape and aluminum and everything else. We'll pull all that out, but first we have to get this stuff on. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna use this. This is called Super 77. It's a great adhesive. You just need to have this in your shop if you don't. And I'm gonna glue the first layer on so it sticks really, really well and holds that shape perfectly. And then we will fill it with resin. Let's get to work. This is called fiberglass resin. You mix it with a hardener and it basically creates a chemical reaction and makes it super, super hard. You impregnate the fiber, the glass fibers with it, and it becomes really strong as well. This stuff by itself is brittle, but when you have the woven fiber inside of it, it gets really, really strong. So we're gonna mix up some of this with a hardener and then put it on the bumper. So the cloth will go transparent as it gets fully wet with the resin. In our case, it's going to turn brown because that's what's underneath it, the brown tape. Another reason I use brown tape. there's some sort of bug in here that's making a clicking noise and I can't find it. So if you hear it, can you guys hear that? Very annoying, but I don't know where it's at, so it's just gonna have to stay. I sprayed some black guide coat on this. Guide coat is just a really thin spray paint, basically. And that way when I start sanding stuff down, I can find my low spots to fill them with fiberglass filler. But we ran into some issues. So just to catch you guys up, what I did was pulled the whole bumper off, reinforced everything from behind with fiberglass mat. It's a lot thicker, and it makes this thing a lot more solid. And then just put it back on here so it would hold its shape. Unfortunately, it's such a big piece that the fiberglass started to cure before I could put it back on. Like when I was putting it on, this thing was probably like 120 degrees or so. It was like burning my hands. And so I got it back in place, but we had some warping happen. Some of it happened right here in this piece, and then another part happened over there on this kind of bumper piece right here. On that side, it's like warped inward, which isn't good. But it's fixable. It's just another step, which is kind of a bummer. But anyway, that's what the deal is with the screws. They're just holding this thing in place so that it would hold its shape while the thick fiberglass cured, and that gives us a really strong piece. So before I go and start cutting and repairing, because that's basically what's going to happen, I'm going to have to cut this section out right here and move it in and then build in a new piece. And I'm going to have to cut that section over there and get it flat. I'm going to go ahead and take this whole thing off, trim everything up, and just see how much flex I get, because I'm going to trim a good bit of this stuff out. So I just want to see how much flex I get out of it when I do have all the excess trimmed off. And then we'll go from there on what repairs we need to make. And then we can start filling and making it smooth. That's the plan. I also, off camera, put some more filler on those back fenders back there. So we filled that in a little bit more, built it up some. So I'll sand that down in just a minute, get it smooth. And we'll move to fiberglass on that as well. That should be way easier. It's just a simpler shape. Obviously, this is super complex. So yeah, I think the next thing is gonna be to pull this off. There you go. It looks a lot more like a thing now, which is good. And like you can tell now, it fits without all that understructure, which is pretty great. And it's super sturdy, but it is wavy, and I'm not super happy about that. I think there's some things I could do to make this bumper a lot straighter in the production side of it. I'm not sure how I'm gonna fix it yet. I have a few ideas, but that's a little bit of a bummer. I may end up having to remake this part. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. I think the biggest change that definitely needs to happen is this has to move in. Even looking at it right now, it's just way further out. You can tell it just kind of sagged out of the way, which also a bummer. But I think I can cut it right here and move it in, and then just build in a section. And then over here, collapsed. This piece that goes down back like this collapsed on this side. That's what kind of messed that up. So I've got to decide how I want to repair this. I think I have an idea that'll work, but I think I'm going to have to, I think I can repair this waviness and that with one go. Alright, so good news. I think I figured out the solution. So I just made that really flat piece on that cardboard, and I think it's going to do what I wanted it to do, which is basically smooth this whole bend out across kind of a flat plane. This is super wavy, and it's wavy mainly because of the structure that was underneath. It just wasn't strong enough. Instead of rebuilding the whole thing, I want to leave this in here because it's super strong, and I don't want to cut it out and try to graft and all that stuff. So what I am going to do is take that, I'll trim it and graft it into my bumper, more as kind of a fascia than actual support material, but it will kind of smooth that out. and give me something to work with. So that's pretty great. I'm really happy with that. I think it's gonna work, but it's not all the way cured. It's still really flexible, real soft. So I'm gonna let it cure. I may have to let it cure like overnight, but I'll let it cure, and it should be a really solid piece to kind of build this out. The other thing that I did is I cut this section right here. I just cut kind of this L shape out and used a screw to force the fiberglass inward. It'll eventually take this shape on its own, but it takes a while for it to kind of conform. If you've ever done a fiberglass body kit, you'll know you can make them fit a lot better with heat. A lot of times people will get fiberglass parts, put them on, they don't fit right, and they get mad and write a bad review or whatever. Fiberglass will flex over time. It will change position, I guess. And so if you use some heat, a lot of times you can bend it and make it move into the direction you want it. So kind of doing that here, I basically sucked it in to match that side. So now these two sides match. There's just a giant hole we've got to fill now, which is really not that big of a deal. So what I'm going to do next, what am I going to do next? I think the next move is going to be sand everything, find all my low spots, and fill those with fiberglass filler. I think that's going to be the next move. So we'll go ahead and start flattening everything out. I've got a big gap over here by the headlight that I didn't know was there. So it's like, I mean, I could fit my whole hand in that. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. I assume I'll just make a piece to go in there and just graft it in. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure something. I got to figure something out there. I can't just pull this in because there's just too much structure here to do that. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll talk to you more about it when I figure it out. The headlight ring does fit in here, so that's good. So I think this bucket is going to work out. Now it's just smoothing. Another thing I'm going to do that I haven't talked to you guys about yet, but this lip is going to be part of the actual bumper. I don't know if that makes sense or not on camera when you're watching me build this, but basically I will mold this in right here on this edge, and I'll kind of glue it down in the back with fiberglass, and it'll all just kind of become one piece. And then this will get fiberglass. This extension that I made will get fiberglass as well. So this will all just be one bumper that pulls on and off. All right, so we've got this kind of quickly blocked down with some heavy grips, like 60. And I'm seeing some imperfections in the layup, which it happens. But what I'm noticing a lot of is a lot of these low spots. So you see how it's real splotchy? All the black that you see is low spots. So we knocked down some of the highs, and there's still lows in there. My goal was to do this without having to do like a full skim coat of fiberglass filler, which is what I typically do when I do projects like that. This, I mean, is skim the whole thing. So the reason I don't want to do that is because fiberglass filler takes a long time to sand. It's really hard to sand. It's kind of nasty stuff, but it will fill. What I also don't want to do is just cover the whole thing in Bondo. So I think fiberglass filler is going to be the ticket here, and I may just have to suck it up and sand it. So this is just wavy, and this may be the project that makes me start producing molds and bucks and all that stuff. The reason I don't do that normally is space. I'm in a small garage, and I don't want to have to keep a bunch of molds laying around everywhere. But if this ends up weighing a bunch of weight, if it ends up being really heavy, then we may go ahead and just make a mold and pull actual parts out of it, which would be a cool thing. That'd be a cool thing to show on the channel. So I do have to figure out how I'm gonna handle this situation over here where the fender and the bumper meet. I'm just not sure what that's gonna look like yet. So next step for this is gonna be fiberglass filler over basically everything. Huh?
Your thing is here already now.
I know. We're gonna play with it in just a minute.
Even it has plastic wheels on it, so I'm going to put plastic wheels first.
Oh my goodness, that sounds so fun.
I think you guys think it's fun.
So this is the solution for the warped bumper whenever it all heated up and did all kinds of crazy nonsense. Basically this is just a flat piece of flexible fiberglass, and I made sure it had no air bubbles in it, made sure it was super flat so that I have a really good surface to work from and it'd make a really smooth curve, which it did, which is awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'll fill in behind here, probably with fiberglass in the small spots, and the bigger spots I'll probably use some foam as backing and then fiberglass it in, and this will all act like one piece basically. It's going to clean up my lines a lot. I think it's going to look a lot better, and it's also I'm just looking at the design. Alright, anyway, it's going to clean up my lines a lot. It's also going to make this look a lot more uniform on the front, which is good because it's going to be super noticeable if that's not right. So it'll kind of true all that up. And it's going to be really easy to bodywork, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to glue this on. But we have had a, what do you call it? Yeah, I guess just a change in plans because something just came in the mail that I did not think was going to be coming in the mail today. And it's for another video. So I'm going to go do that, which means I'm going to leave you guys right here on this cliffhanger. And the question is, can we make this look good? And this is the point, and it happens every time I build something where I kind of question my ability. And hopefully we come out with something that looks really good. I'm already happier seeing this on here. I think that's going to look a lot better. For you guys that don't know, this we can just graft this in, so it's not just going to be like a strip of fiberglass. It'll be part of the bumper. I also didn't talk about it, but I got some belt sanders because I'm tired of hand sanding stuff, and those worked really well. So I think that's going to do great things for flattening this part out, and you can see it flatten this out really well too. So I think we're going to move pretty quick on this thing. But like I said, there's been a change of plans. So I'm going to go in there and do that, finish that video, and then I'll come back out here later and finish this one. But for you guys, this is it. I will see you in the next one. I hope you are enjoying this custom fabrication stuff, the fiberglass fab stuff. We haven't done it in a long time, and it feels really good to be back into it. And this thing it's looking pretty wild. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.